let's travel eastward to Detroit and see what old Jahmyr Gibbs is up to. And here's Debo's question to you, Rick. How big a role could Jahmyr Gibbs play in the Lions pass game? And I'm watching a clip here from practice where he's running routes, which is not a surprise if you watched him at Alabama. He's coming out of the slot here. And if you watch him at the pro day, and he is going to be a matchup problem. So we know he's going to run the ball, but what do you think his impact will be, and how often might he be used as a receiver?
Debo must have not listened to any of the podcasts we had on every time I've talked about Jahmyr Gibbs. So I don't think once I've ever said that he's a running back. I said he's an offensive playmaker that lines up at the running back position, but he will be in a slot. They will use him multiple ways. He's too good of an athlete, too good of a route runner to not be used at different positions on the offense, whether that's slot, whether that is whether it's in the backfield. He will just do a lot of things. Debo, you're throwing me off here.
If you're listening on your earballs there, Debo put up a headline that screams Jahmyr Gibbs, not a running back, and now Rick is off his game.
He will have a major impact in the passing game for the Detroit Lions.
I'm trying to think. Let's see who else they have there. So they have David Montgomery, who's a little long in the tooth, came over from Chicago, obviously. And then the wide receiver, they have Josh Reynolds. They have Marvin Jones. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown in the slot. They drafted Pete's favorite player on planet Earth, UNC wide receiver Antoine Green, on day 3. So there's going to be plenty of opportunity. Sam Laporta, the tight end, they also drafted early in round 2. Jahmyr Gibbs feels like he's going to get, let's say there's 60 snaps offensively a game. I think he's out there at least 30.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay.
And he would have had more if, I believe, they didn't screw up the kickoff return rule because they utilized him as a kickoff returner too. But that they may still. I'm anxious to see how teams handle this new kickoff return rule. But he also you can put the ball in his hands as a kickoff returner as well, and can be an impact.
So you say you're interested to see how teams handle it. Is there any strategy that college teams use that I'm unaware of for the kickoff rule?
Not that, I mean, I never really studied it. You know, in fact, analytics said that if you kick it off in the end zone, I can't remember, it was a very low percentage of actually getting it out past the 25-yard line.
I agree. So anecdotally, I agree with that.
A lot of teams just, downing it in the end zone, except if you have Cordero Patterson or premier kickoff returner that just say give them the green light every time. So I asked Rich McKay when we had him on one of the shows that I was doing.
Side job.
And he said that they studied the kickoff returns that were fielded in front of the goal line to the 25, where the new technically fair catch rule is. And that's where most of the concussions came in.
Okay.
Now I think teams will try to maybe potentially squib. Some teams will still try to pooch, but it'll be interesting to see. And I didn't know this stat. This is what I would do right now. I'd have my analytics department take out all of the kickoffs that were into the end zone. And let's look at how many returns were between the goal line and 25, wherever they caught the ball in a kickoff, because you couldn't down it last year. And how many times that go past or the 25-yard line. So there's a lot of interesting things. So that'll be a new twist. But I know these special teams coaches were pretty upset with the new rule because that's just eliminating another phase. So basically they're down to maybe coaching 2 phases return. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of strategic thinking and ways to take advantage of this new rule if they can.
Yeah, one of the things, and this is just anecdotal, Bill Belichick was a special teams coach early in his career, and it felt like you rarely saw, historically, a lot of his players take the ball out on kickoffs. And you mentioned the concerns, the concussion concerns that Rich McKay talked about. There's a better chance you fumble the ball if you're not fair catching it, right? So there's that concern. And one thing that drives me crazy as a fan is how it feels impossible. Why do gunners and people on special teams, how do you get called for blocks in the back time and time and time again? That is one of the things that drives me crazy. Like pass interference, I get late hits, whatever that happens. Roughing the passer, okay, you didn't see where the ball was, but it drives me absolutely bonkers to see blocks in the back in the return game. Do you have any
Yeah,
answers for me?
that was a point of emphasis that the officials were looking for, especially in the return game. They wanted to eliminate that blindside block or someone coming in and clocking someone as they
Mm-hmm.
ran down to try to, again, player safety. But a lot of times, if a player is not blocking him in the back, but on his side,
Right.
and depending on where his head is. So, what special teams coaches started to teach is the saber technique. And the saber technique is without delivering a blow. And if you're on the side of the person or the player you are blocking, that you stick your arms out like
Oh
this.
yeah, you see
Or
that.
you see that all the time.
What does
That
saber mean?
it's like a saber sword.
Oh, you're making yourself into a sword, sort of.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
No, I love that. Like that, and that has never been
But that
called.
was a technique that was, yeah, that there you see a lot of this, and sometimes their back sweep and be against the guy
Yeah,
blocking, and the guy's on
exactly.
the backside here. That is because that's eliminating a potential illegal hit or a block in the back.
And it's one of those things where, yes, it's football, yes, it's physical, but you don't need to knock someone into the dirt. You should need to get in their way and slow them
Right.
up like a half step. So that
Especially
makes
on the return because that's
right.
where most of the injuries are going to come, and that's where they're trying to really implement these rules in player safety.
Look at that. I learned something. Saber technique. Try that out today, Debo, at the grocery store. Try the saber technique with the old lady that cuts in front of you and see what happens.
Just think of it as someone posting up in a basketball game.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
the exact same thing, except you're running full speed